I got a message about 2 months ago on Instagram from Sonicake asking if I would be interested in reviewing some of their pedals. I immediately answered yes, of course, but only if we could stick to a particular theme, such as how to sound like a synth with a bass. Lisa, the contact from Sonicake, liked the idea and I got to choose the pedals that you will see today in this video. So not only are we going to check each pedal individually, but also how when combined you can create all kinds of awesome synth sounds. Pretty cool, right? Welcome back to the Witterbase. Before we dive into today's topic, let's address the elephant in the room. Let's talk about prices. Around 33 euros for the Cry-Bot, 46 for the Octaver, 30 for the Root Mouse, 32 for the Fazy Cream, 50 for the fifth dimension, and 60 euros for the Sonic Ambience. In total, that's 251 euros for 6 brand new pedals. More or less the price of one boutique pedal. So right off the bat, you do get a lot of effects for your money. There are alternatives though, like the Zoom B14, a much more affordable and good sounding digital multi-effects for bass. Also for purely synth sound, you could get an Electro Harmonix bass monosynth. Or its bigger and more expensive brother, the bass micro synth. But these are meant to do basically one type of effect. Whereas with the Sonicakes or with the Zoom, you can do all kinds of effects. So apart from the obvious fact that we can get some pretty cool synth sound out of the Sonicake pedals, is combining them and putting them on a pedal board a better option to the alternatives we just mentioned? To answer that, we need to test them in the right conditions. For the sake of this video, and because I am actually going to use these pedals for real, I decided to make a permanent pedal board to fit them in. This is my experimenting with sound pedal board, if you prefer. The idea is to start from here and slowly upgrade it with time. Also, call me crazy, but I do want this pedal board to be specifically for mini pedals. So I threw in a compressor at the beginning of the signal chain to control dynamics, especially when using the Octaver pedal, because it just works better that way. I was a bit skeptic though about using the compressor in front of the Cry-Bot, which is basically an auto wah. But to my surprise, it works perfectly fine, and in fact even better with the compressor. I could have used this cheap but surprisingly good sounding yet a bit noisy bass limiter, or this not too good compressor that you can find on the internet under different brand names. I bought them both for about 10 euros just to check them out. And also I might review them in a bass compressor shootout that I will do later on this year. Back to the Becos Compiq Mini. Although it is the same price as 3 or 4 Sonicake pedals, I decided to use this compressor because it sounds awesome and it's super transparent, making it just perfect to test these pedals under the right conditions. Also, I decided to use a blend pedal. Why? Well, first, because I can. And second, how should I put it? As a bass player, I do not want to feel too disconnected from how my bass sounds, if you know what I mean. Now, it's not easy to find a cheap blend pedal, especially a mini one. But luckily, I did own a one-control Mosquito blender that I bought some years ago at a reasonable price, around 70, 80 euros, if I remember correctly. So the cool thing about this one is that it does have a phase switch, and some effects inverse the phase when used in parallel to your dry signal. And now for power. Behind these rubber bands is the Harley Benton Power Plant ISO 2 Pro. It costs 69 euros and comes with 8 isolated outputs. 6 of them are 9 volts and 2 of them can be switched from 9 to 18 volts, which is a good thing because I'm running the Becos Compiq on 12 volts. I must admit it works flawlessly. Let's see how it behaves as time goes by.
Ah, fuck, where are they? Where are all the cables? Where the fuck are the cables? I don't know where the cables are. I think they're over here. Here we are. Okay.
We got to link the pedals with cables, and these are some that Sonicake sent me. I have nothing specific to say about them. They work fine and they're flat. I did have to make 2 longer cables using this solderless kit to connect the compressor to the input of the blender and the output of the blender's loop to the Cry-Bot. So that way I have all the Sonicake pedals parallel to the dry signal. So some people complain about how difficult it is to assemble these cables. I had no problems. Finally, the pedal board. I made it myself for about 10 euros. The wood and the spray, the black spray paint. And in the next video, I will probably show how I made this pedal board. So if you're curious about it, make sure you subscribe and yeah, check out how I build it. So my pedal board in total costs around 580 euros. Quite a lot of money, come to think of it. But it does have 8 isolated outputs, a boutique compressor and a quality blender, and 6 pedals for all kinds of effects, not only for synth sounds. So not bad if you ask me. Besides, if you don't want to spend that much money, for around 320 euros, you can have a daisy chain power supply, the 6 pedals, and a normal pedal board. But enough about money, please. Let's talk about sound. Let's go back to the main topic. Let's listen first to the Cry-Bot and to the Octaver pedals. The Cry-Bot is a joy to use and it sounds lovely on bass. I really like this pedal. The Octaver has this Boss OC2 flavor, but not as deep sounding. Still, for the price, it does perfectly the job and sounds quite authentic. Now let's check out the distortions. The Root Mouse is a Rat clone, whereas the Fazy Cream is a clone of a Big Muff. So like all rats, the Rude Mouse loses a lot of low end. But it sounds really, really good, especially when set to hot. However, the Fazy Cream did not impress me as much. It lacks control with a gain above noon, but at a third way up, it sounds really good. Now let's stack the two. Check out how well they combine. The Rude Mouse boosts the mids that the Fazy Cream loses, and the Fazy Cream boosts the lows that the Rude Mouse loses. Seems like they were made for each other. Right? And that is without blending the dry signal. We'll get a taste of that later in the video. Now let's listen to the modulation and time effects, also an essential part in the creating of a good synth sound. The fifth dimension has some great usable sounds for bass. It's a very inspiring effect, and to have 11 different modulations is great for experimenting, especially when sculpting a cool synth sound. The Sonic Ambience has the most appropriate name of the bunch. It's easy to create a luscious and almost mystical atmosphere with it. However, listening to the intro song again, I realized that it's easy to abuse this kind of effect. I would probably use less reverb next time, as it does tend to muddy up the sound a bit. And with the mix knob above noon, the volume decreases and the signal becomes blurred. But anyway, let's combine these two pedals. The tap tempo on both pedals works pretty well and is pretty useful, especially for the delay and tremolo effects, for example. And now let's see how all of these pedals combine, switching them on one after the other, and see this time what kind of synth sound we're going to get out of them. By the way, at the end of this video, you will hear the 4 tracks I used in the intro song without drums, without anything, just by themselves. That way you hear more synth sounds. there you go. We did mention earlier in the video that we could get one pedal, a cheaper pedal, that does synth sound, but it does only that. We also mentioned that we could get similar results with a digital multiple effects pedal. Its main advantage being that you can store and recall settings, and it's a lot more practical to carry around. But there's nothing to me like tweaking physical knobs. And the journey of discovering sounds using multiple pedals is a lot more fun to me than using a multi-effect. Call me old-fashioned, I don't care. Also, I can gradually upgrade this pedal board once I figure out what works for me. So, are Sonic pedals up to the job for a good synth sound? Absolutely. I mean, you heard it. And besides, I really like the sound of the root mouse and the feel of the Cry-Bot. The fifth dimension is a fabulous little pedal if you want to experiment with different modulation effects. The Octaver has a similar vibe to the Boss OC2, but at a fraction of its price. The Fazy Cream is a good Big Muff clone, but this would probably be the first pedal I would upgrade to this. This is the Svesound Bezoid Fuzz for bass. I'll also try to do a review of this one as soon as possible. The Sonic Ambience is an effect that with bass has to be used with precaution. But again, a great tool for proper synth sounds and to experiment with. And that is exactly what this pedal board is all about. Experimenting with sound. Hours of fun and creativity guaranteed. And now for the individual tracks I told you about. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.